Maple Leaf Capital tweets, recently, an internal Excel document from Huobi, one of the BPs, is circulating in the Chinese community. This file documents the collusion, mutual voting, and payoffs that occur amongst the Chinese BP community. I'm working on getting the file. Welcome to EOS Weekly, your #1 source of EOS news. Today is Thursday, September 27th, and the title of this week's episode is Allegations of BP Collusion. So let's get into this week's update, starting with headlines. This morning, September 27th, Maple Leaf Capital sent out this tweet making allegations that there is collusion among the Chinese BP community. Article 4 of the EOS Constitution clearly states, no vote buying. No member shall offer nor accept anything of value in exchange for a vote of any type, nor shall any member unduly influence the vote of another. The allegations of vote buying are centered around the Huobi block producer. Huobi is, at the time of this recording, in the #2 BP spot and is getting paid 823 EOS daily, or the equivalent of $4,617 US daily at the current EOS price. Huobi is based out of China and has operation centers in China, South Korea, and the United States. Their full name is Huobi Mining Pool. These are the documents circulating around that allegedly provide evidence of a quid pro quo of voting among the Huobi and block producer and other BP candidates. Huobi votes for them and they vote for Huobi. This, if true, is in clear violation of the Constitution. In Dan Larimer's revised version of the Constitution, he does not mention vote buying. There have been discussions about BPs using their supermajority vote, meaning 15 out of 21, to self-regulate and vote out a BP that is either not meeting the basic BP requirements, for example if they're missing blocks, or potentially in a case like this where a BP is violating something in the Constitution. Dan does refer to the use of the supermajority vote in this section of his proposed Constitution, but he has it geared more towards disputes over intent of code, which is more of a DAP level dispute, not a violation of the Constitution. The current Constitution does say in Article 6 that each member agrees that penalties for breach of contract may include, but are not limited to, fines, loss of account, and other restitution. This is a bit vague though. Does a violation of the Constitution count as a breach of contract? And if it does, which of these penalties would apply? Would Huobi, if found guilty by their BP peers, lose their account and all of the EOS tokens in it? Or would they just lose their spot as a BP? Or maybe this shouldn't be a constitutional question at all. Douglas Horn, one of the founders of the Telos blockchain, responded to the Maple Leaf Capital tweet saying, these allegations, if true, are very concerning about decentralization on the EOS blockchain. This type of thing is exactly what Telos was founded to prevent. Telos uses something called inverse weighted voting, which is quite an ingenious approach and could make the whole vote buying issue obsolete. With inverse weighted voting, you only get the full voting power of your holdings if you spread your vote out among 30 block producers. Something like this, combined with some more stringent requirements for determining which BPs get on the voting ballot in the first place, and you wouldn't even need to make voting collusion illegal. The BPs could collude all they want and it wouldn't really matter. This type of proactive approach seems much more effective than relying on a supermajority BP vote, because as Maple Leaf Capital pointed out here, 12 of the top 21 BPs are effectively controlled by China. If there is collusion among 7 or more of those 12 BPs, it will make it difficult or impossible to reach that 15 number for the supermajority vote. Huobi hasn't responded to any of this on Twitter yet, nor has there been any discussions of it in their Telegram chat. All of this is very new, so we need to analyze this more closely before passing judgment. So let's move on to Speed Round, where we take you through in chronological order all the EOS news, announcements, and events, starting with the last week and going several weeks into the future. So, starting with WABT. On September 18th, Block 1 announced the EOSIO 1.3.0 release, and one of the notable features of this release is a new WebAssembly interpreter called WABT, spelled W-A-B-T. The reason WABT is noteworthy here is because it is a WebAssembly interpreter that is up to 2 times faster at retiring contract transactions than the previous interpreter, This means EOSIO just got up to 2 times faster without changing any of the hardware. More good news came out on that same day, September 18th, when Bancor announced the launch of BancorX on the EOS blockchain. Currently, Bancor provides a liquidity market on Ethereum, hosting over 100 ERC20 tokens. What's so cool about this announcement is that not only is Bancor now going to provide a similar liquidity market for EOS tokens, but they're also working on cross-chain functionality to join these liquidity markets between EOS and Ethereum. We'll go further into Bancor and BancorX in our next segment of this video, so stay tuned for that. Last week, September 18th through the 20th, the Alliance hosted week 5 of their 12-week series on the Constitution. The focus is now on Dan Larimer's Intent of Code is Law version of the Constitution. Some of the more interesting discussions in week 5 were centered around enforcement, how much power arbitrators have versus block producers, and whether we should have arbitration at the base protocol layer. On September 19th, Dan Larimer put out a blog post titled Defense of Universal Resource Inheritance. He had put out a blog post a week prior about URI, which earned him some criticism from people who consider universal basic income to have a communist tone to it. And this is what Dan Larimer was responding to them in an attempt to set the record straight. Here he expounds on his previous post and goes through several asset classes describing how the magic number of 5% inflation applies to each of them. On September 19th, EOS New York announced that they completed coding the system-level editions of Regarbitrator and Regforum. This is the initiative that they first announced on August 22nd, where EOS New York described how to build an on-chain database of arbitration forums, as well as arbitrators, which dApps could then reference in their Ricardian contracts. Now that they've completed the coding on this functionality, EOS New York is seeking feedback from the community, and is planning to put this up for a community vote once the referendum process is in place. In last week's speed round, we mentioned how EOS Asia would be launching the EOS Pixels dApp this week. Unfortunately, on September 22nd, EOS Asia announced that they were discontinuing the project due to legal concerns. EOS Asia didn't offer much more information as to what these legal concerns were that caused them to step down and discontinue the project, but they did open source the code, and they're encouraging the open source community to pick up where they left off. The London Hackathon kicked off on September 22nd. The challenge was to create an application on the EOSIO platform that improves the relationship between technology and a user's privacy or security. The next day, on September 23rd, the top 10 finalists each gave a 3-minute pitch where Dan Larimer was one of the judges and asked quite a few questions. Third place and a $10,000 check went to On the Block, an app that simplified credit checks by eliminating the middleman. Second place and a $25,000 check went to Chestnut, a smart bank account project that puts limits on payouts to different entities so as to protect the account owner. Ash Oro was on the team Chestnut, and he gave the final pitch, so congratulations to Ash and the Chestnut team. And the grand prize went to EOS Shield, walking away with a $100,000 check. EOS Shield is an app that gathers data from the community on any EOS accounts that are bad actors. The purpose of this is to enable people to query the EOS Shield database prior to transacting with a given account, so that they have better visibility and can make more informed decisions as to who they interact with. Big congratulations to EOS Shield. And this week is the 6th week of the EOS Alliance series on the Constitution. The focus continues to be version 2 of the Constitution, where the Alliance is attempting to get enough of a foundation laid so that in upcoming weeks they can move on to the drafting process, where hopefully we'll start arriving at some concrete Constitution drafts for the community to eventually vote on. The Blockchain Live conference took place in London on September 26th. Brendan Bloomer gave a great opening speech on the current and future state of blockchain, and at this conference, EOS Finex gave a demo and announced that they are going to be launching November 1st on a sister chain, not on the EOS mainnet. Also at Blockchain Live, Zimbra, a collaboration and productivity tool, announced ZimbraX, which will be a version of their software running on the EOS platform. Telos, the sister chain of the EOS mainnet, may go live as soon as Friday, September 28th. Very exciting. What you see here is a snapshot of the Telos launch checklist at the time of this recording, which you can find at telosfoundation.io/launch. The link to this checklist is in the show notes below. As you can see, there's a lot of these items that have the green checkmark, but about half of them are still in progress or in testing. They'll probably want most, if not all of these to be complete before launching, but that's what the go, no-go meeting on the 28th is for. So best of luck to the Telos team. On September 29th, Warbly is hosting a web conference. This is a free, all-online conference and has some top-notch speakers covering topics such as inter-blockchain communication. And this is leading up to the November 1st launch of the Warbly network. The WHITEPAPER airdrop is taking a snapshot on October 1st, and we will begin the airdrop of their PTR tokens a week later on October 8th. The WHITEPAPER airdrop is specifically looking at the voter table for their snapshot. So if you haven't voted for your BPs yet, this is a good reason to do that before the October 1st snapshot. EOS Rise is a dApp development workshop being held in Denver on October 10th and 11th. This workshop series is sponsored by EOS Tribe and OCI Partner. EOS Dublin is coming all the way from Ireland to host a meetup in Portland on October 11th. And where else than in an Irish pub? So along with EOS Dublin's Cypherglass and Thomas Cox will be giving presentations there. November 1st, as we just mentioned, is the target date for the Warbly launch. And then we have on November 10th and 11th, the hackathon in San Francisco. And the EOS Block Producer Summit will be held November 16th and 17th in Norway. And this is part of the Crypto Finance annual event hosted by Bitspace. The grand finale of the EOS Hackathon series, hosted by Block One, is scheduled for December 7th. The location of this hackathon is yet to be announced. The top 3 winners of the past hackathons all get their travel expenses covered to attend this grand finale. So there will be a lot of talent and ought to make for some fierce competition. And January 21st through the 25th, we have EOS DevCon in Tampa, Florida, which is a dApp and EOS developer-focused event. And that brings us to our featured EOS project of the week. In the world of stocks, bonds, commodities, and foreign currency, various methods have been used to discover fair price and create efficient markets. Not so long ago, open outcry trading pits were the primary method for this, where traders negotiated price with one another in a quick and transparent way. Today, much of the open outcry pits have been replaced with electronic systems for matching and executing trades. In the crypto world, many of us are anticipating the coming age of the tokenized economy, where every niche community or dApp will have their own token, with the incentives for that token structured in a way so as to optimize value for that community or dApp. But one of the barriers to entry for any new initiative that is attempting to bring a new token into existence is liquidity, or lack thereof. When a new dApp is just getting started and there are very few buyers and sellers yet for their new token, it becomes very difficult to bring new people into that ecosystem, the ecosystem that they're attempting to build. So if there is not an efficient market through which those newcomers can procure tokens, the dApp hits a major roadblock. So that is why we are featuring Bancor as this week's EOS project of the week. Bancor offers a protocol that brings liquidity to illiquid token markets. And it does a lot more than simple matching of buyers with sellers. Going back to the open outcry trading pits, when there is a price gap in the market, where the lowest price sellers are willing to accept is far above the highest price buyers are willing to pay, the traders in these pits are still trading amongst themselves, holding positions and putting their own money on the line. Collectively, the traders inside these pits keep the price liquid even when there is a price gap in the external market. The Bancor protocol is very similar to these open outcry pits, but instead of having human beings, traders, holding positions and trading amongst themselves, Bancor uses something called smart tokens. When you hear the term smart token, it might sound like a generic term used across the blockchain space, but Bancor actually coined the term smart token and trademarked it. It's the Bancor smart token that acts as the entity that is analogous to a trader in an open outcry pit. The Bancor smart token has some intelligence to it. They have these things called connectors, where a single smart token will have one or more connectors to the tokens being traded. This is why Bancor describes smart tokens as money that holds money. And to completely oversimplify it, when you get enough of these smart tokens pooled together and connected together, a swarm-like behavior emerges that turns them into these automated market makers. And this is where the liquidity comes from. The smart token used on the Bancor network is called BNT, which stands for Bancor Network Token. The supply of these BNT smart tokens is in constant flux, expanding and contracting according to the Bancor formula. Bancor seems to be everywhere. It started by plugging into the Ethereum network, offering a liquidity network for the ERC20 tokens. But as you may recall from a few months ago when the EOS RAM price was skyrocketing, Bancor was coming up a lot because we use Bancor to manage the EOS RAM market and bring liquidity to it. Bancor also has a block producer named LiquidEOS, representing the Bancor team. LiquidEOS is, at the time of this recording, number 28 in the BP rankings. But the most recent announcement is BancorX. This is the counterpart to the Bancor liquidity market running on Ethereum. BancorX will bring liquidity to all the dApp tokens being traded on the EOS blockchain. And one of the most exciting parts about this BancorX announcement is that this turns Bancor into a bridge between EOS and Ethereum. In the final sentence of their BancorX announcement, Benny Hakek, the CEO of LiquidEOS, wrote, "LiquidEOS and Bancor Foundation will continue to work together to provide cross-chain functionality between EOS and Ethereum and eventually to all other blockchains." Bancor described this cross-chain liquidity in their original white paper, so this has been part of their vision all along. What this will actually look like in practice, though, is not entirely clear yet, but this is an exciting area, and we'll be watching this closely and reporting on it in future episodes. Congratulations to Bancor for being featured this week's EOS Project of the Week. If you would like to nominate a great EOS project to be recognized here, please ping us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EOSWeekly. That's it for this week's episode of EOS Weekly. Please like and subscribe if you found this content informative and you want to continue to stay current on EOS as this revolution unfolds. Thanks, and we'll see you next week right here on EOS Weekly.